Hey, it's Kim. I wanted to give a flip of my 2022 standard size Hobonichi Cousin. Now that 2022 is over, we have moved on to 2023. I thought it would be cool to just look back to see exactly how I used this book for the full year of 2022. This was my first time using a standard size Hobonichi Cousin, or a Hobonichi Cousin cut down to standard size. And in the beginning, I wasn't sure if it would work or how it would work. And I'm here to say that it works. So this is going to be a flip of how I've used the entire book for the year. I won't be talking too much, just going to have some chill music playing in the background, and I will interject here and there. And I'll just flip you through from front to back the way that the normal Hobonichi is set up. You have your months, and then it goes into the weeks, and then it goes into the daily pages. My monthlies weren't really used too heavily, especially in the summer months. You can see some of those, like July, were extremely bare, extremely empty. But as the months progressed, I actually got more comfortable with utilizing the monthly layout. So I started to add more deco. I started to kind of backfill information that happened throughout the month. And actually, I can say that the month of December was my favorite spread. I filled it in with a little bit of micro journaling in certain spots, and I really like the way it turned out overall. And then these were just the blank monthlies that you get for the following year. So those were the first months of 2023 that I didn't use. And then this was the last week of December 2021 that I didn't use either. And I will note that I did start this mid-January 2022. So these first couple of weeks are back planned, which is why they're not too full. Through much of the year, I was finding my stride with how exactly I wanted to use the weekly layout. You can pretty much tell that all of my weeks look basically the same, so I was glad to land on something that really worked for me. I had actually started using it back towards the mid to latter part of 2021, so I did know that the structure works for me, where I keep the timetable in the middle, the day events or day specific tasks up at the top, along with my workouts at the top, and then dinners at the bottom, along with different kinds of lists across the bottom of the weekly spread. So the format always remained the same. I might change certain things that I put in those bottom lists, but for the most part, it works for me, and if it's not broke, don't fix it. Some weeks, again, like I mentioned with the monthlies, were pretty bare, especially in the summer. And I think that's to be expected, especially if you are a little more active, when the weather is warm. I might have been out of the house a bit more, or maybe I just wasn't feeling it. So that's why a lot of those weeks are a little bare in the middle. And as we got into the fall, I sort of picked up a bit more with how I was using my weekly layouts. And then you can see right there is a week that I didn't use the weekly layout at all because we were away. So I took a moment to just put a little bit of, deco or some of the pictures that we had taken while on vacation in the weekly spread, just to remind myself of what was going on. I tried to get a little adventurous towards the end of the year and switch up my weekly layout, and I didn't quite stick to it. You can tell I did sort of like an Alistair method for my weekly tasks, and I realized that I put it on the wrong side. It should have been over on the left. and a little bit of quote down at the bottom. And I had a list for dinners that I thought we would have for the week and workouts that I thought I would complete for the week. But really, in the end, I didn't quite like this layout at all. So I went right back to my tried and true for Thanksgiving week. The following week though, I decided to try it out again, and this one was even worse than the last. I just pretty much hated it. I hated everything about it and didn't really use it. So back to what works for December. I even tried adding a bit of a tracker there at the bottom that I have continued to use into 2023. And that's my weeklies. And here, right after the weeklies, we get into my index. And as you can tell, I didn't index a whole lot. There were only a few things in my notes that I needed to index. And on the right, I just used that to park some sticky notes. Getting into my dailies, every month begins the same with what I call my monthly collection pages. There's the tracker, there's the one line a day, and then the monthly task list. So you'll see that as a recurring theme at the beginning of each and every month that I'm going to flip you through. And you can also see that I would use pieces of vellum to cover up notes pages just so that they didn't interfere with the vibe or whatever else I was looking at in my daily pages. And then this was a spread that I really did like. I created this for a collaboration video that I did with the Minimal Sophisticate, where we talked about managing time versus energy. And it's actually something I refer back to pretty often. I included something similar in my 2023 setup, which you will see in my goals video, which should be coming out soon. And there was some stamping that I did use in 2022, and I really want to go back to that. That's what I was pointing out right there. And here and there, you will see a few spreads that are empty or some blank pages. Some of them I had intended to come back and fill in with some collections or ideas that I had, and I never got around to it. Or others, there were actually a few instances where I just accidentally skipped a couple of pages and didn't mean to. And then this is where I started to do sort of like a swatch page for all of the monthly stickers from Sterling Ink. And I liked how that turned out, so I do incorporate that throughout the planner from this point forward, where I'm swatching some pages or some markers or stickers to see how the washi combines and how it all looks together. And as you might notice, I don't use a ton of deco in my daily pages. It's pretty much marker and ink. Some random sticky notes here and there, and a few decorative stickers throughout as well. I had to shift the camera just a little bit because I'm running away from the sun. I don't want that stream of sunlight over on the left to wash out what you're seeing too much. So here's a section where I started a training journal for my half marathon that I was doing in September. And I did really like how this turned out, so much so that it made me create a health and fitness journal for 2023 that I have laid out in a Hobonichi weeks. I do have the video for that on my channel if you're interested. And what I was just showing there is the fact that my monthly task list sort of took a dive throughout 2022. There were times where I didn't fill in the task list at all, and then other times where I filled it in, but I just didn't complete anything on it. So closer to the end of the year, I just decided to do away with it, and I came up with another strategy for managing those monthly tasks that I wanted to track. There's another task list that's barely filled out. I made a valiant effort to get back to the task list for July, but that quickly fell off again. And here we are in September. We are nearing the finish line on these daily pages. And in my daily pages is also where I keep my order trackers. So I think I had maybe 3 spreads over the entire year. So that wasn't too bad. And I just put them wherever and use a little page flag so that I know where to flip back to. And then that was my swatch page for November. So I made it more of a thing. Tried to incorporate it more so into the deco of my daily pages, which I loved. And in November, you can see that I abandoned the task list and I started doing something a bit different and using that area for my goals. So I would define which goals I wanted to focus on for the month. And then at the end of the month, I would come back and reflect on what my progress was and just my general feelings or reflections for the entire month as a whole. That was a far better use of that area than the monthly task list had been for me. And this is a spread that I tried to do like an hourly timeline going down the center, and I ended up hating it. I mean, I tried for a few days, but it just didn't work. And here I am running from the sun again, but we're almost done as the sun continues to creep through. And this is an example of that goals page in the reflection that I didn't finish for December that I was talking about. I'll go back and do that. This was a spread where I was trying out a different layout for my dailies. I moved the margin over, or I added a margin, and I was trying to decide on the left and the right which version of it that I wanted to use. So I decided to do the double line, and it's very similar to the way Megan Rhiannon on YouTube does her commonplace notebook, and the way I've seen Philo Planner on Instagram do her daily pages. So I'm really liking it because it gives me the opportunity to add deco both to the left and to the right of my writing, whereas before in my dailies I would only be able to add the deco towards the right side of the page. For the last week of the year, I actually decided not to do dailies, and I just did this running task list for the full week on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side, a bit of micro journaling every day if I just wanted to come in and write down a few notes about anything. So that's where I ended on December 31st, 2022. And then those are just a few notes that I had in the back. And as you can see, my daily pages stopped at November 23rd. So I had all of those blank pages to use for notes. Now I know in this year I can, be a little more liberal with my daily pages and I won't run out. So all the way in the back I have some swatch pages where I just tested some fountain pen inks, did some scribbles, and tested some mild liners and Tombow markers and my stamping inks. And that pretty much wraps up the entire book. I will say that I have enjoyed watching this book get chunky over the course of the year, and I did notice that the top is much thicker than the bottom, and that's because I would put the washi up at the top of my weekly spread, so that definitely created some bulk and I was able to see it firsthand. Something I also noticed that I had to do as the book bulked up, towards December I would sometimes have to take the book out of my cover and then flip it like this so that I could have more of a flat surface to write on. Otherwise there would be like more of a hump right there in the middle. So I would just do it just like this because that Hobonichi binding is amazing, and that made it easy to write on with no damage to the spine at all. So that's it. This book has served me well for the entire year, and I'm very excited to use the same system for 2023. I'm excited to see what that's going to look like at the end of 2023, and I thank you so much for coming along with me on this ride to see exactly how I use the standard size Hobonichi Cousin for 2022. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in the next one.